times, my friend, I could see the storm clouds gathering. Tried to close your eyes to the ignorance and lies, but it still feels like a heavy load. Greed and fear are the seeds that appear to have taken root through our garden right here. These sights and sounds were dragging me down, so I went out upon the road. I went across the ocean, out to Thailand and Cambodia, up to Kathmandu, Sri Lanka, through Tibet and down to India. And up on a hill in Rishikesh, I came across a holy man with shining eyes and lips of smiling, grinning. This is what he said: nothing so tall we can't climb over. There's nothing so wide we cannot cross. No. The time has come to raise your voices. The light burns brightest when all hope seems lost. Be fearless and play. Be fearless and play now. Even though we never seem to have it all together, still I know when it's all together we could have it all, yeah. Be fearless and play, yeah. Be fearless and play, my friends. You can live for tomorrow and still live here in today.
Be fearless and play. Be fearless and play.
I would play when I was a child, I swore that I would never forget, no. When I would play when I was a child, I swore that I would never forget, no. I will never forget, no. I will never forget, no. See, I will never forget, no. I will never forget, no. I went across the ocean, out to Thailand and Cambodia, up to Kathmandu, Sri Lanka, through Tibet and down to India. And up on a hill in Rishikesh, I came across a holy man with shining eyes and lips of smiling, grinning. This is what he said: nothing so tall we can't climb over. There's nothing so wide we cannot cross. No. The time has come to raise your voices. The light burns brightest when our hope seems lost in the dream. Wake your memory you had as a child. Go wild, let me hear you scream. Be fearless and play. Be fearless and play now. Even though we never seem to have it all together, still I know when it's all together we could have it all, yeah. Be fearless and play, yeah. Be fearless and play, my friends. You can live for tomorrow and still live here in today. Be fearless and play, yeah. Be fearless and play. This is one thing no one could ever take away. By the water's edge, the current running swift. She sat down for a minute, trying to catch her breath. And she said, why am I so alone? Why are we all so alone? The floods came and divided us long ago. Nobody knew how to swim, stranded on islands of their own. She said, I will no longer cling to this shore of isolation anymore. She just jumped on in the current, pulled and twisted, knocked on rocks and flipped and lifted, rolling through the rapids, feel like drowning, head is pounding, lights surrounding, starting to float, drifting with the current, learning not to control. There's no way out, but there's a way in. There's no way out, but there's a way inside. Oh, oh, drifting out of sight, she had never seen the constellations burning so bright. New islands coming up over the horizon. Find surprisingly not frightening. Heart and mind filled with excitement. Spirits rising. All of the people rush down to the shore. And they said, who is this child who's not afraid anymore? Oh, please come teach us, come and save us. Free us from all that enslaves us. Show us how you learned to do this. Please, oh master, help us through this. Oh, she just smiled and she said, my friends, I am not a savior. I would not try to pretend that this is some kind of miracle, but I know where to begin. You just got to jump in. You just got to jump in. There's no way out, but there's a way in. There's no way out, but there's a way inside. And sometimes you'll find yourself adrift. And sometimes you'll be adrift and find yourself. 'Cause you're in. You're in. You're in. You're in. There's no way out, but there's a way in. You're in. There's no way out, but there's a way in. You're in. There's no way out, but there's a way in. You're in. There's no way out, but there's a way in. You're in. There's no way out, but there's a way in.
Okay, let me just get things situated here. Hi, everybody. It's very red in my room today. I don't think that helped. Oh well. So. Uh-oh. I think I'm missing a crucial ingredient. Uh-oh. Oh, up, aha! There we go. So, today is going to be an exciting day, I think, because we're actually getting into instead of just portraits and character designs and stuff like that, I'm actually going to do some work on one of my planned comic strips. So, I've got a whole bunch of these in various states of completion, but so this one is a really short one, well, comparatively. It's just 3 pages, and the general story, although I haven't finished penciling it all out, is that, a couple of nobles are overseeing workers in a field, on a plantation or something like that, and they begin discussing between them. One of them is newly reborn, and it's their first time being reborn. And so the experience of having past memories and having a past life and integrating that into a new life is new for one of our aristocrats or nobles here. And so they begin talking about it, and also they talk a little bit about the way that different people are like people with souls are different from people without souls, and a little bit of snobbery in that regard too. And then as they're talking, one of these workers walks past our friend here, and this triggers a memory, like something in his soul recognizes something in the other person's soul, and we go to one of those past memories in the next page, and here we do it entirely within both of these people experiencing the realization that they killed one of them killed the other one in a past life. And so throughout each of these frames, we're seeing each person's point of view as they fight one another first person, and one of them is victorious. The third page I haven't fully written, and so we'll have to work on that. I want there to be a punchline here of some kind, so I don't want it to be all grim death, blood everywhere, and then that's the end. And I think I know what that punchline is going to be, but we'll see where we get. Let's see here. So I'm trying to decide where would be the best place to start. And I think actually maybe we should try to work out the story for the third page. So, let me get my pencil here.
Peace is not a destination, no. It's the road. It's the road that we love.
Alright, so first thing I want to do is a quick thumbnail of what I think the page should look like. So for that, I'm going to zoom out considerably. Not that considerably. That's good. It's nice to, when you're just trying to get some kind of really quick idea of what you want, it's nice to do that at a good bit of distance when you're working digitally, because then you can just cover a lot of page territory quickly, and in a traditional notebook this would be considered a thumbnail, which is something you want to do anyway, just a small drawing that gets the idea of the page across. So we had our fight. We need to come back from our flashback into the world of today. So let's do a new establishing frame up here at the top. Oh. Well, that's okay. I got you. Just checking the composition of the previous pages, so it looks like I've actually kept the frames entirely inside the live area up until now. So why don't I do, well, yeah, why don't I do a breakaway? And so there won't actually be a top frame, it'll be an open frame, full bleed to the edge, and that way it's not quite bound, so we're still in the transition phase between the conceptual flashback page here with its own breakaway elements, the faces on either side of the page, and then so then the last time we saw our figures, one was above looking down below. So maybe we'll reverse that. So that's what we'll do. So we'll have our figure with the buckets over his shoulders here, and our guy up on the horse up here. You know what? We won't. There's a third figure up on that ridge, but we won't even show him. Right now, the most important two figures are these guys here, and they're staring daggers at each other for just that brief moment. And then, as if trying to simply be the obedient servant, he hurries along while our figures watch from above. And then we'll go back to our two nobles discussing life and rebirth and souls.
Some say we have lost it, but no, in a world gone mad, sanity's no real sign of health. So drop your bags and drop your fears.
We'll have a couple more panels of conversation. I'm just estimating right now. Like, I have a kind of a script running through my head, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how I want to fill that space. But I'm trying to make enough space for me to get all the information I do want to get out before the payoff at the end here. So let me just compose. Okay, so then we'll go back to our guy who is up to nefarious things. And he's sneaking towards a barn while our nobles have their off-screen conversation. And then his final act is to ride off with all the horses. So we'll just kind of fake in here a pack of horses running away so that I can remember that for later. So the payoff here, of course, is these two recognize each other just in the briefest of moments for having been influenced on each other's past lives. You know, perhaps they are opposed soulmates, and this is a dance that they will have for centuries. And then you know, that tension is broken here as they go back to their respective roles. Our young, newly reborn soul and his mentor confer briefly. Oh, you recognized him? Was it serious? No, not really. I mean, I killed him over a matter of a few horses, or some kind of debt like that. And that's the idea, is that now this guy is basically coming in to continue the feud that caused their clash in previous lives. And so here he is, you know, paying good on the debt. Or whatever, and that's the title of our comic strip, is Debts. So that's our pseudo punchline payoff for the rest of the setup. So now that I have my thumbnail and I have an idea of where I want my frames to be, I'll go ahead and pick up my frame tool. I'll pick up a rectangle frame, and I will not draw a border for this first frame because it's that full bleed frame. And then for all the rest of these I will draw a border, and I get a little closer in here. So, in order to make sure that the distance between all of my frames is what I want it to be, and you know, my thumbnail is wrong too. Real quick, I'm gonna fiddle with my thumbnail.
The answer answer always seems to be the same. Don't hold your breath.
Okay. So just make sure I'm using the same amount of space on every page. My previous pages were restricted just to the live area, so I need to make sure that this page fits in the live area, at least as the frames. The full bleed, obviously, I can take that all the way out to the edge of the bleed area. Anyways, so I'm making frames. So this next frame, what I'll make is a full frame to cover the rest of the live area. Starting from the bottom of my frameless frame, or borderless frame. And I'll drop that down to the other end of the live area. And then there's a tool, a divide frame folder tool. And I'll use this to cut this frame apart according to the thumbnail. So that way I don't have to worry about making sure all the pixels, all the distance between all the frames is identical and stuff like that. You know, the tool will do that for me. So I need to make a division here, a division here. Oops, wait. It's easier to do this horizontally first and then vertically. There we go. Okay, so now I have frames for everything. And I'll just, you know, now take these ideas that I began with and refine them and shape them to fit the space and the theme that I want. So this thumbnail I'm going to throw out entirely. It's not even going to look anything like what I've actually started with. This is just a simple graphical language for my idea of what the page is going to look like. So now that I've got a new raster layer, I'll pull up my pencil, I'll go down much smaller. I'm going to turn, oh, I don't need a new layer. I'm going to turn this bluish. Oh, you know what, I should turn my paper gray too. So, if you do a lot of digital drawing, try not to draw on white paper on a white screen. Get yourself a nice 50% gray, at least for your pencils. Once you get into, pencils and inks. Once you get into color, obviously you don't want that 50% gray background unless that's going to be what you're printing on, because that'll mess with your color context. But as much as possible, you don't want to be staring at a white screen for hours and hours and hours, because that causes eye strain, which can lead to detached retinas. So there's your health tip for drawing for today. But yeah, so let me change this layer color a little bit, because the blue is hard to look at on the gray. Alright. So once again, this is just there for my reminder of what my intent is. I'll actually be drawing slightly more proportional figures. Now I have to think about this perspective. So let's look at our previous frames here. They're not on a huge rise. If he's standing right about here, his head height is at the feet of the horse. Maybe I should do a different type of frame for this. Yeah, you know what? I think I am. I think I've got a better idea. And this is one of the reasons why you want to thumbnail these things out thoroughly. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a tall establishing shot here that bleeds outward. And then we'll bound it here, and we'll do basically this frame 2 will come up here on this side. So let me move those frames around real quick. A lot of this process is a process of discovery. You know, you sit there, you try something, it looks good or it doesn't look good, and you either have to start over or continue on. Okay, so I want to fit 2 frames here. I'm actually going to shorten this down a little bit. Alright, so then I need frame 1.
My foot hits the pavement and the concrete don't give. Not like the soft dress where I used to live. Go down to the corner store to buy a bottle of water, cause the shit from my taps like it came from the gutter. Throw on my hoodie cause it's gloomy and cloudy. Put on my headphones and zone out to roomy. The man behind the counter, man, I think he's a Saudi or some kind of Sunni. He just looks like gloomy. Homeless man got enough change for a 40. Look at the clock and it's only 4:30. Void in my eye and old lady walks on by. Thinks all rays are shady and dirty. I go to get a sandwich from the girl at the deli.
So I think that'll fit a lot better. Let me get back in here and get my pencil layer going. So the idea is to have our worker down here, the ridge upon which the horse stands is here.
But my toes, they can't feel. How long have I been asleep at the wheel? Lord, look into a mirror, I don't know what to do, cause I can see my eyes are dying too.
We'll just fake in a horse here, like I said. I don't need to get too detailed at the moment. I just kind of want there to be a... So the idea is that the eye visually kind of wants to start up here and move this way. So what I actually want to do is make sure that we're going like this. So maybe I'll... You know what? So let me scoot this figure up here a little bit more.
Ventured in the world, see where it comes from defending the God or a job or a loved one. Empathy's a message only wants to spread. The longest journey ever from the heart to the head, like Theseus in the maze following the thread. The longest journey ever from the heart to the head. Oh, just got to remind it, yeah. Kindness coming back to humankind, yeah. To find your heart, you got to lose your mind.
Okay, so I think that visually tightens the distance that I need to travel in order to get the figures to notice each other and for us to really draw that tension from their shared experience and still follow into the next frame. And that's basically the process of comics, right? Is like solving problems with the visual language in order to tell a story. So we'll be doing a lot of that. The next frame is way up here for some reason. Oh, and this is where our worker was continuing on his merry way. So a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm trying to divide this into thirds, right? I need space for my figure to walk, space for the incline, and space for my other figure to stand. Oh, thanks, Hellmoon. Glad you could join us. Okay, and then hurriedly walking along. There's our figure here. And the noble. And now that we're fully back in the shared experience, we'll bring our other noble figure back. Even though they probably should have been in this picture here. For storytelling purposes, we'll omit them.
Come on, let's go and take a look outside. Floating on the foam, an angel appeared in the form of a wave and whispered, with a wave going into the shore, we're alive. When it crashes, there's an undertow, just as strong as the current, and your journey continues with the ebbing tide. Had descended in the spirit of a dog and led me up into the jungle, fading in the fall. Was coming from the brothers circling all around the scene, but clearly heard his spinning, falling, laughing, cry. I hung on every word. He said, I'm the left hand of God, and I'm much harder to understand. While the right hand will counter you and I.
Okay, so quick conversation, just a couple of floating heads, no problem there. And then, Okay.
Sitting on the beach in Santa Teresa with my old friend St. Peter. He reached out his hand and he peeled back the night sky. He pulled it aside like a black velvet curtain that was studded with tiny little diamonds. He said, come on, let's go and take a look outside.
Okay, so a little bit more explanation, exposition, conversation between our two nobles, and then we slide on over to see what our commoner is up to in the next panel. That's not the next panel. Where's the next panel? These are all out of order. What a pain. There we go. Sneaky.
Well, you may see a man
Sneaky.
close up his open.
That's running. Let's try sneaking legs. Let's see here.
And you will witness pain of people's petty pursuits.
Maybe.
Which you will never see a hearse with a trailer hitch.
Maybe we're looking back over our shoulder to make sure.
A hearse with a trailer hitch. Oh, hungry ghosts in the land of milk and honey. Oh, hungry ghosts in the land of milk and honey. There are people so damn poor, all they have is their money. There are people so damn poor, all they have is their money. Truth be told, the truth will be told, only hear it when we're listening. We'll unfold for young and old.
A little barn in the background here.
Just visiting. In the end, we're only visiting. On this hedonic treadmill building appetite, with collections of those little things that shine. For camels will not fit through needle's eye. Your camels will not fit through the needle's eye. Truth be told, the truth will be told, only hear it when we're listening. We'll unfold for young and old, 'cause in the end we're all just visiting.
And we also get a little more off-screen dialogue from our nobles here. And
On the day they lay
the final frame,
down to bury,
our barn.
there will be no pockets on the pants you're wearing. And on that day you will see what it all is worth. So earthlings, don't keep your treasures here on earth. So earthlings, don't keep your treasures here on earth. No, earthlings, don't keep your treasures here on earth.
And a bunch of horses.
And we're only visiting.
So the easiest way to do like a group of objects running together in the same perspective is to draw boxes around their feet. Essentially, everybody's going to have to occupy a rectangle on the ground. And this helps you make sure that everything is the right size and that none of your objects are colliding with each other. And it gives you an idea of how things are changing in size with perspective, and it makes sure that all the objects in the group are in the same perspective. All of those little things can totally ruin someone's ability to perceive what you're drawing. And we'll put our guy on this horse here. So now I have these excuse me, these little imaginary 3D rectangles in which I can place a horse's rough shape here. And I won't worry about legs here. I'll actually look at reference photos of horses in order to make sure that I'm drawing horses right. I always have to do that. Horses are my worst subject as far as animals are concerned. Oh, let's give a... big old wave of the hat, and we'll get a shit-eating grin on there once we work into it. So... have to make sure that I draw the front horses first, because obviously they'll be obscuring the bodies of the back horses.
Everybody that you see is an earthling, and all the animals and trees are earthlings. And all we know that we know that they can't speak. Make a choice for the voiceless. Everybody sing. You can try to build it wide, to build it high. You never move faster than the speed of light. You can try to build it wide, to build it high. You never move faster than the speed of light. You can try.
And then I just want to get some kind of farmhouse looking building here. Nothing too ridiculous, because we're, you know, this is medieval times, so not like some big stately state house or manor, but let's say that these are wealthy ranchers. And landscape in the distance.
Activist, pacifist, catalyst, coagulous, blow up your peace sign, show me how you manifest. We all know those suffering from apathy are lost in the box, so show me.
Okay, so
reaction, no satisfaction.
just take a quick look at my pages here, one by one. Obviously this is done to a different level of completion than the other pages. So, you know, we'll have to do a little bit of fiddling on each page here. Oh, it's bright. But we have rough pencils for the entire comic now. So the next thing that I'll want to do is start roughing these up to a more complete level. And I kind of want to start with this page, because this seems like the most interesting page. And also, it's very internally consistent, so I'll be replicating a lot of things. So it won't take very long. But I do want to more sharply define all of the ideas, because the figures here are really rough, and like this, I don't even. So there's going to be a lot of foreshortening, like looking down, out at your arm, projecting away from your body. So it's gonna be a little bit challenging in that respect. I also need to scoot. I think I might need to reduce the size of just about everything. Oh, I wonder how easy that will be to do. Because I've got these great little faces on the margins here, but they're actually barely visible. The bleed only goes to the edge of this blue line here. So all of that drawing out there outside of the blue line is never going to be on the page. So I want the reader to be able to see, you know, the fact that there is a superimposition of, you know, this worker, this young noble, and their past life experiences that they're sharing in this moment of meeting each other. So, let's see here. Can I change the size of everything in this folder? Will it work? Oh my goodness, yes. So, let's see.
And no storm shall ever break this foundation of this tribe that we belong to. And I'm gonna make it, and you're gonna make it too. 'Cause you got me and I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. Know that I got
Oh, see, it's not changing the size of the frames themselves, though.
only way we make it through.
That might still work, actually.
I got you.
No, it won't.
I got you. Know that
Crap.
I got you. I can see you get me to it. Only way we make it through.
Okay. I think I can still make this work.
Shangri-La. I got you. Know that I got you. I'm on the road to Shangri-La. Know that I got you. I think you will find you when you look out of your mind. 'Cause we all meet united. Shangri-La. I got you. Know that I got you. Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I got you. Know that I got you. I'm on the road to Shangri-La.
Yeah, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put some rulers down on one of the main layers here. No, that's not it. And we'll scoot ourselves in that far. Just to this little measure on the ruler, whatever that is. And about the same distance here. Doesn't quite look the same. That's better, I think. So then what I can do is I can use that ruler as a anchor. Oh, I do want to snap to rulers. How does I do that? Snap to ruler. There we go. So then if I scoot each of these panels into that ruled line, I have less total space to work with for the battle and more space for the faces. And we'll have to see if that actually pays off. I might, if it's too small of a space to, get the action in there, it might be worth it to just get rid of the faces and let the viewer into it. Oh, hi, how's it going, Shun? AKA Alchemist Alan. Welcome to the stream. I'm just talking about solving some of the problems on this page in order to achieve my storytelling goals. This is a, if you're just joining us, like I see a couple of you might be, the idea behind this story is that two soulmates are meeting meeting for the first time in this lifetime, but they met in previous lifetimes and killed one another. So they're opposed soulmates. And so the one who died at the hands of the other is now seeking revenge in something of a creative way. And the idea here is that we're perpetuating the feud over lifetimes of these two players. So in order to get the rush of past life memory that these two are feeling at the moment of meeting each other in their new life, I'm doing this sort of flashback of the moment in which one killed the other, and I have these faces here on the side of the composition that I want to be visible so that the reader can be like, oh, we're inside their heads right now, right? So just have to make sure that these faces are visible on the page, and they were outside the boundaries of my printed area in my initial sketch. So I'm scooching them inward, trying to keep the eyes and the mouths of the characters generally in the same horizontal space. So there we go. I think that does it. I'll have to come back in here and recenter each of these pages, but that's okay. We'll just grab that real quick. And I think that's still enough space. Whoa, 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 whoa. I think there's still enough space to tell the story I want to tell. I'm going to have to shrink down each of these ones, though, the right-hand page, a little bit. Maybe not. Yeah, I think I am. Huh. Oh, my music ended. Pick something else. So that was a bunch of free tracks that one of my favorite bands, Wookiefoot, released. It's their 2016 sampler for a lot of their more famous songs. They're a pretty chill band. I like them a lot. We'll get a little more Wookiefoot.
The grass grows in the field and the cows eat all the grass. And I eat all the cows so I can have a big white ass. Attention Walmart shoppers, there's a sale in aisle 5. So get spastic with your plastic. Ain't it great to be alive? I said what a happy day at the all-you-can-eat buffet. Just fill the whole damn tray at the all-you-can-eat buffet. Let me hear you say go.
Okay, so
At the all-you-can-eat buffet. Just throw it all away. At the all-you-can-eat
let's start up here and we'll put in a new pencil layer. And this is going to be as tight a pencils as I can make it with the most detail. So just before I ink. So I want to make sure that everything on this previous layer that I need is properly signified. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a center line here.
and the test tubes grow the eggs. When genetically perfected, they won't even need their legs. Get excited, Walmart shoppers, there's a new machine to buy. It gives you spiritual salvation, only $19.95. I said what a happy day at the all-you-can-eat buffet.
So this first, well actually I'm just going to go ahead and do this in ink because this is going to be the repeated for each frame in this set. So I can just cut and paste it and not have to redraw it each time.
Woke up one morning, decided I would make contact with freaks that as often don't have it. Woke up one morning, decided I would make contact with freaks that as often don't have it. Saw the button as a look away from pain. Tried to satisfy the appetite for pain. Look into the eyes of a child to repeat. Sing, melody, this life is but a dream. One morning I woke up, my ear could hear what when no one was listening. Those people who spoke up. One morning I woke up, my ear could hear what when no one was listening. Those people who spoke up. Inside of every whisper was a scream of how alone when no one listened, so it seemed. All I have to offer back is an ear and a song. Singing merrily, this life
And then I can just duplicate this
is but a dream. Merrily, this life is but a dream.
each time I need it again in each of the left-hand frames.
the seven seas. We sailed everywhere we please. But when the storm was coming toward, I noticed you jumping overboard. Lord, what to do when the waves are high? When to let it go and when to stay and try? Did you have to burn the whole damn thing down? How to swim away while I was left to fly? It's just not right. Lord knows it's just not right.
I've used DAZ before. It's
When the shipwreck
Yeah, it's a modeling program. So I don't know if it does animations, but I know that you can, pose your models, equip them with a whole range of 3D assets, and then, make high quality renders. So, you could certainly use it to make the frames of an animation. I don't recall if it actually has animation. I used it a long time ago to just get pose mannequins so that I could create dynamic and interesting human figure poses. To draw for reference. But I never tried to animate anything with it, so I'm not sure if that does that. But Manga Studio, aka Clip Studio Paint, they do have animations now. That's a pretty cool thing. I like that they've included that functionality. I actually used their animation setup to make my animated avatar for the Chronicles of Elyria forums. It's pretty easy to use, very intuitive. And Clip Studio Paint also has posable 3D models. So I could drop a model into the scene here, and pose it up and use it as reference for my drawing. So DAZ is free though, and Manga Studio is a couple $100. But yeah, pretty much the same functionality as DAZ, in a very limited capacity. It's not quite as fully featured as DAZ. What's going on here? Oh, I'm doing the wrong. Ha ha ha. Okay. So we got that all worked out. Work out the face mask for the other side. And that is just an oval cameo with some bars across it. So that should be easy enough. Get out my ellipse tool. Grab the corner of this box. And so I've inverted the selection so that way I can fill the black space outward. But since I'm copying this layer and moving it downward each time, if I were to fill all this space with black, even though the frame border would restrict our view of all that black, it would replicate across all the other layers when I moved it over. So before I fill the space, I'm just gonna cut out most of the black, and actually I should, or, excuse me, most of the additional information. So that way I'm not filling a bunch of pixels that I won't see. That'll keep my file size down, I guess. There we go. Well, I hope that doesn't obscure the view of the action too much. I want to give the impression that we're inside these helmets, you know, but I also don't want to make it so that you can't tell what's going on in front of the helmet. Maybe it won't be so bad. We'll see. It's on a separate layer, so I can fiddle with it. But let's go ahead and make copies and move those into each of the other frames. Then we can actually get into some drawing.
Wookiees always looking for a psychedelic spot. Copy Swami got a message dreaming in from outer space. There's a place on your face that you can save the human race. It's called a smile. The positivity you'll spread, it takes a while. But the grin will turn the itch into a mile. All you gotta do is just make believe. Just make believe. Just make believe.
Huh.
Just make believe.
Did I draw those bars on the wrong layer? Sure as heck did. Well, crap. Alright, let's do all that again. The girl wakes in a room full of clouds, and it must be afternoon because the reggae booming loud. Forgetting to make a new layer is the bane of my existence. Inside out and upside down, inside out and upside down, inside out and upside down.
Abduction is the key to the door that goes underground.
We found there's a river that passes up.
You know, while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and slim my pen down so that it's not drawing such a thick line. So those bars are a little less obtrusive.
The man in the mask would you chip just in time. Just make believe. 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 Just make believe.
Okay, so this layer will copy, and we'll move it on down to here, and that works out much better.
The nighttime arrives, the moon will inspire up street drum circle with fairy spinning fire. We check down Babylon, Martin drops a beat, Captain Happy's got 5 foot stilts on his feet. Enter Mr. Bliss with Melissa, the nurse. His license is poetic and his verse unrehearsed.
A heady necklace is the sign of great wealth in our tribe, and I know when it's a moment when I see a butterfly by.
It's all in my head's what my caseworker said, and the knots in my brain just go out into dread. We met in this room, just watching cartoons. I better get some sleep, gotta be up around noon. I just close my eyes and wake up from my dream and go back to being a dragonfly lying by a stream. I just close my eyes and wake up from my dream and go back to being a dragonfly. Believe it, so I see it's all make believe. Just make believe. Just make believe.
Okay. So the helmets are done. Let's get some details in here. So, first thing I need to establish is the skeleton of the figure. Trying to make a shield here. It's strapped to his forearm, so I need the forearm and the straps, and then we draw the shield, and then that helpfully means there is less body to draw, so we'll get rid of the parts of the body that are now obscured by the shield. So our shoulder sometimes I'm my own model. I gotta kind of look and see how things would lie. Your own body is your best tool. Some kind of heraldic critter. Maybe we should do something different, a little more emblematic. Let's do three. Let's do three. Oh, yeah. Less detail I have to draw later.
when Rome was burning down. Nero played his violin. Listen, love, to hear the sound. Still echo in the wind. The asylum on the island, something no one can ever touch. No gluttons, no spotting, cause we already speak too much. Put the meaning in the sacrifice by waking the fuck up and asking why does half the world hate our government so much? See, all the king's horses and all the king's men. All the king's horses and all the king's men. All the king's horses and all the king's men. Good and put it back, not good and put it back. All the king's horses and all the king's men.
So we'll start to get some armor over this skeleton. Alright, so that's a little bit better. Let's do another level of refinement on that figure. Oh, you know what? Let's also do some Horizon. Alright, so one more layer of pencils just to really solidify all of our ideas.
You have to say anyway, it means necessary, justified.
beaten. We all get a beating. The end, we just reap what we sow. An eye for an eye just leaves us blind for the story we already know. History repeating. We all get a beating. The end, we just reap what we sow. No freedom gained with blood stained. 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 Can't you see? Don't you know? Can't you see? Don't you know? The disease and the Nazis. The disease and the Nazis. Which one are you? Disease and the Nazis. Which one are you?
I began to float up and away from my body as my brain seemed to be held in the grip of a giant vice.
Sucking the hallucinatory acid into the system.
No one had a bad trip. It was all very good. It was all very good.
Sucking the hallucinatory acid into the system.
No one had a bad trip. It was all very good. No one had a bad trip. It was all very good.
Too much. Too often. Too much. Too often.
No one had a bad trip. It was all very good.
I began to float up and away from my body as my brain seemed to be held in the grip of a giant vice, floating higher and higher. A wonderful feeling. A wonderful feeling. Everything around me became suddenly unreal, as if in a dream. All of my most sensitive areas were inflamed, my extremities pulsating with tingling sensation.
So Clip Studio has a parallel lines ruler that I probably should be doing, but I've kind of gotten used to eyeballing these sorts of things, so hopefully it'll look okay. I think that looks okay. So I want my circles to be circles, but I kind of don't want to use too much in the way of tools to accomplish that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip down to the previous layer and structure these circles a little bit more. So I need to find a center line for each one, or a series of center lines. The horizontal center line will be the same for each. And like when you're doing structural drawing, mostly what you're doing is drawing a bunch of extra lines to act as a structure, a scaffolding on which to prop your stuff. So the scaffolding for a circle is a square for the most part. So if I draw these series of lines here and look where they intersect, then I'll have the space to bound my circles. I just have to make sure that I'm leaving enough space on either side. I'm actually going to erase all these other circles. I probably should have made it yet another layer for these structural lines. But I'll make do with a little bit of slop here. By the way, the technical term for a circle on a coat of arms is a rondelle. Alright, so then about halfway between each of these circles, I should also be seeing the center line of the upper tier of circles, or rondelles. Not quite right, but it's close enough that you won't be able to tell without the structural lines, so I think it'll be okay. So then I want the tops of one tier of rondelles to rest on the bottoms of another. And again, my shield shape is slightly asymmetrical, so that's going to have an effect on these structural lines. And if I had done the proper structural lines for these the shield, it would be symmetrical and it would be easier here. But I didn't do that. I'm willing to live with that mistake because nobody's going to be coming in with a ruler later and checking up on my work. Hopefully. All I have to do is make sure that it's enough to fool the eye. So now, I'm going to be reasonably confident. Oh, that's why that doesn't work.
Mine is when like a runner at the age of 24, and the soul himself the same until the ugly corporate heart. I don't know if it's wrong, but it doesn't feel right to be 4 years and I'm looking for a fight. Is the right to remain silent all you want? Hell no! Is the television thinking all you want? Hell no! Is the man only worth what he's worth? Hell no! Is the right to remain silent all you got? Hell no!
Okay, so now we see I have this box here, which contains the central rondelle circle. And so I can sketch that in place and fill it in for visibility purposes. And that provides me with the understanding of where the other rondelles need to be. So I need another center line here. And one here. Quite. Actually, I like the look of just the 3 rondelles. So let's stop it there. See how we do. And like, it's clear now that I'm drawing in these circles that they aren't even following the structural lines that I initially laid out. But putting all those structural lines down kind of helped me realize where each line was incorrect. It's a hard thing to describe, but laying down a grid, even a grid that is clearly not aligned with itself, gives you a better scope of what's going on. And so now when I hide that layer, that looks more or less right to me. And I can fudge things around a little bit with my lasso tool. But I think that looks pretty good, actually. All right, so let's get the rest of the figure drawn in pencil. Oops. Pick up the pencil tool in the first place.
Throw yourself in front of never stopping industry confused, cause in the end he died.
think my sword tip center line is off now, which is fine. The blade is more or less a continuous line from the hilt to the point.
And if you don't like the pain, then get your hand out the flame. And if you don't like to lose, get your ass out the game. And if you don't like the gold, then you had better fly south. And if you don't like the taste, get that shit out your mouth. Get out of your way. 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 I get it, but I never get it right. My best get caught on fire or a needle in my eye. I think I'm dead rock bottom, but I fall right through the door. The opportunity knocking, but I never get the door. No, I don't really know. No, I don't really know why this place fucking sucks, but I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. No, I don't wanna go. This place fucking sucks, but I just can't leave it. Every time I get it, but I never get it right. A victim to my vengeance, like a bitterness of spite. I sabotage myself almost every single day. I can't get out of my way.
Break it down like this.
And if you don't like my touch, then you can hide in your shell. And if you want to eat shit, you better get used to the smell. And if your leg bone is broke, then you can learn how to crawl. And if you can't stand up, you better get ready to fall. Get out of your way. Get out of your way. Get out of your way. Get out of your way.
All right. So that pretty much gets the pencils in hand for that first panel on the second page. What time is it? So I'm about out of time. Started a little early today. So I think we'll call it good at this point. But for the rest of the week, I'm going to be working on this this comic strip. So we'll take a look at you know, the whole process. Today we thumbnailed and kind of got some really loose pencils for page 3. And we tightened up the pencils for page 2. We'll continue that process. We'll get the dialogue laid in on pages 1 and 3 and write those out. I don't think I'm going to color this one, but we'll definitely get it down to a level of completion by the end of this week. So join me every day this week. I'm going to be going from roughly 9:30, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time until 11:30 noon Central time. I'm going to so yeah, I'm gonna keep this up every day of the week. Please come and join me, and I hope you enjoyed the show. You know, feel free to come back tomorrow, asking me some more questions, chat with me about Chronicles of Elyria, which is an awesome game. Go to chronicleselyria.com and check it out. It's going to be amazing. And as always, this is what I do for a living. So if you feel like helping me continue to do this without worry for my next mortgage payment, then go ahead and hit the button up there that donates bits to my cause, or you could even subscribe to my stream and help support me monthly. I also have a Patreon with a whole series of rewards and special perks that donors get every month. So I would appreciate your support and your help in continuing to be a working artist. But if nothing else, hit the follow button so that you know when I'm streaming next time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.